Mitchell, whenever you're ready.
Yes, and you can hear me?
Yes.
All right, my name is Mitchell Moline. I'm speaking as a constituent from Ellensburg, Washington. Up until last week, I was recognized as an active member of the Jehovah's Witness organization. I officially resigned as a member, in part due to learning of the policies and decades-long pattern of mishandling allegations of child sexual abuse within that religious community. I was never a victim of CSA, but I am in awe of the brave survivors that have found the courage and strength to speak up about the abuse they experienced. I am ashamed of the faith leaders and adults in these children's lives that should have prevented known child abusers from harming them and others. I commend the Washington state lawmakers that took action and brought forward these bills after reading reports on the gaps our state law has in child safeguarding. I support this bill as it will do much to close these gaps. However, I urge you to reconsider keeping the confession exemption, or loophole as it more accurately should be described. It is important to recognize how the Watchtower Corporation, the governing authority over Jehovah's Witnesses, and similarly insular faith communities use these confession loopholes to excuse themselves and their elders from reporting predators in their congregations. The policies that Watchtower lawyers continue to argue in courts is that any and all communications a congregant has with an elder fall under clergy penitent privilege. This means that even a child reporting their abuser is to be viewed as part of that official confession process. And in fact, it has been understood in some cases that a child would be viewed as reporting their own sin of being abused. When a victim of CSA makes an allegation against another member of the faith community, this starts an internal investigation by the elders. They make detailed notes and fill out official forms with details of the abuse, and often, after confronting the abuser, obtain a confession of the crimes. These forms have been described by some law enforcement and legal experts as if they were detailed police reports. This information, the Watchtower organization will fight in courts to withhold from those seeking to justice for the victim. The policies and practices continue to demonstrate their priority of placing brand, image, and even rights of predators above the protection of children within the faith community, and also does nothing to protect children outside the community. These organizations need to be forced to alert the proper authorities to dangerous predators. Please do what you can to correct these gaps in our law and make Washington State a leader in protecting children from predators within faith communities. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mitchell.
Christopher, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My full name is Christopher Marino Harden. I usually go by Marino. I am currently a Seattle resident, but I spent most of my life in Spokane, as well as my entire life as a member of Jehovah's Witnesses. I was not an abuse victim myself, but I was a whistleblower in the Investigate West investigation, and I've been asked by several abuse victims and their families to speak up on their behalf, as well as some who are, and many of these are concerned about repercussions from the Watchtower organization, which I will likely face myself for my appearance here. I'm very supportive of this bill. We know from many case examples in many states and countries that clergy mandatory reporting has positive effects, just like it has for doctors, for teachers, and for therapists. It's not a restriction on clergy. It acknowledges an elevated position of trust over children, and it resolves moral and ethical issues that can lead to the bystander effect. I think this bill is good for everyone and may have prevented many of the abuses that I've witnessed. Any bill is better than no bill, but I'm really concerned about the paragraph dealing with clergy penitent privilege. I believe that it undermines the purpose of the entire bill. If the concept of mandatory reporting is to eliminate the bystander effect, then I believe that this exemption codifies the bystander effect. The wording of the bill exempts the reporting of any confession that a clergy member is required to keep secret under their doctrine, discipline, tenets, or customs. In this example, Jehovah's Witnesses customs, and according to their written rule book that elders must follow, all internal investigations are to include a panel questioning with multiple clergy members to be recorded in writing, sent to the branch, and kept secret. This broad wording lets any religious organization adjust their policies to require that all investigations be kept secret as part of their tenets and customs. Confession from the perpetrator, third party, request for help from the victim, a panel interrogation, all of these in Jehovah's Witnesses or Scientology can be couched as a confession, and now the victims cannot subpoena the documents to make their case in court. Eric Niffen before me gave testimony that frustrated me. He asked for a challenge. He asked to see an example of a case where the state was not able to get information because of a confessional privilege. I can give you multiple. This strategy is commonplace for several churches. Kakert versus Watchtower in Montana last week had this problem, and they denied subpoenas for the documents that had full confessions in them. Eric also avoided answering the question from Rep. Couture about whether other states have introduced this amendment. There's at least 6 others, including Texas, that explicitly disallow clergy penitent privilege as grounds for failing to report child sexual abuse. New Hampshire, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, West Virginia, Guam, and Texas. Australia, the UK, and several other organizations have commissioned independent studies and all concluded that no exemptions was the best policy. The bishop who spoke before me invoked history of priests being martyred and imprisoned, but when we look at this history, when we look at bills that exist, we're not seeing mass arrests of priests. These concerns are hypothetical and do not reflect reality. I respect the steps the Catholic Church has taken to improve their standards, but I fear they're asking the bill to be weakened, and I yield my time. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Marino.